Welcome back to the deep dive, where we like to dive deep.
Always a pleasure to be back.
This time we're going into the world of the Maya,
Fascinating
and
civilization.
we're lucky enough to have some source material to get us started.
Well forgot.
Excerpts from the Wikipedia article on the Maya.
Excellent. The wiki article, that's a great place to start. Lots to unpack there.
Oh, absolutely, brimming with details. So we're not just skimming the surface here, we're really going in deep. And the first thing that struck me right off the bat was how the term Maya is, it's kind of tricky, isn't it?
Right from the get-go, we bump into this misconception. When we say Maya today, we're talking about this huge swath of people, geographically speaking.
Yeah, it's a vast area.
Southeastern Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, parts of Honduras, even spilling into El Salvador. And they shared a lot culturally, that's true, but a unified empire like, say, the Romans.
Not quite the same thing.
Not at all. More like, imagine ancient Greece, with all its city-states, each one vying for power, for prestige.
So not one big heavy Maya family then.
Not always happy, no. And this is where it gets really interesting, you see, because this fragmented political landscape, it plays a huge role in their history, especially when we get to that head-scratcher, the classic Maya collapse.
Okay, you're already dropping hints. I see what you're doing. But before we get ahead of ourselves,
Sure.
we've got to talk about how the Maya viewed time itself, because that was anything but linear.
Oh, absolutely. Their whole cyclical worldview. See, they didn't think of time as a straight line, not like we tend to. It was all about these recurring cycles, creation and destruction, over and over. And this wasn't just some abstract philosophy either.
Right.
This was woven into their everyday lives, their calendars, their rituals, even their understanding of what it meant to be a ruler.
Hold on. Are you saying this belief in cycles, it actually might have shaped how they governed, how they reacted to things like, I don't know, environmental change, even conflict?
Now, that is a fascinating question, and it's one that scholars are still grappling with. Did this cyclical worldview make them more adaptable to long-term challenges, or perhaps less so? It really makes you think.
It does. Okay, so we've established the Maya weren't one big empire. They had this, like, totally different concept of time. And now we've got to talk about their rulers, because the Wikipedia article, it mentions some pretty wild titles. Ajol, Kulal, Kalamte. These aren't your average LinkedIn endorsements.
Quite. These titles, they're a window into how intricate their social hierarchy was. The Ajah, for example, that basically translates to lord, a figure of importance, no doubt.
Right.
But the Kul Ajah, oh, that's a whole other level. We're talking a ruler who's not only a political leader, but also this divine intermediary, a conduit between the gods and the people.
So like Egyptian pharaoh vibes, both king and god.
Exactly.
But this third title, this Kalamt, sounds like something out of a fantasy novel. Yep.
It's a bit of a head-scratcher, even for the experts, I have to admit. This title seems to pop up in specific periods and implies a kind of overlord, someone even above those divine kings.
Wow. Okay, so that's a real power move right there.
Some scholars believe it might signify a temporary supreme leader, someone who rose to power during a crisis or maybe during a period of major expansion.
Okay, so we're talking ambition, we're talking power plays, maybe even a little ruthlessness.
You're getting it. But we've got to remember, this wasn't just about the elite. The vast majority of Maya society, those were the commoners, right? The farmers, the artisans, the soldiers.
Right, the people who actually kept things running day in and day out.
And their lives, oh, they were every bit as fascinating and often far more challenging.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the lives of kings and queens. But what about the everyday experiences of the people who, built those incredible cities, fought in their armies, kept everything going?
Exactly. It's a question we should be asking more often, shouldn't we? Like, we get so focused on the big names, the rulers, the wars, and all that. But the common people, that's where the real story is, isn't it?
It's like, trying to understand a whole country just by looking at its politicians, you're missing the bigger picture. And the fascinating thing is, even though we don't have, like, written diaries from Maya farmers or anything,
Right.
archaeologists are finding out all sorts of things about how they lived, what their lives were actually like.
It's like detective work, piecing together clues from pottery shards, remnants of houses, you name it.
Even their garbage.
Exactly. And what those clues tell us is that Maya society, well, it was far from simple, far more dynamic than we often give it credit for.
So not just farmers and artisans then.
Oh, not even close. Think about it. You've got merchants traveling vast distances, skilled craftspeople making these really exquisite goods. And don't forget the warriors. Even they could climb the ranks, prove their bravery, their skill, and who knows?
There was some social mobility then. People could change their stars, so to speak.
Absolutely. Take that incredible discovery at Aguateca, for instance. It's like a time capsule frozen right in the middle of an attack. The city, it was abandoned suddenly, and archaeologists found these ordinary homes. But here's the thing, they were filled with really valuable stuff.
So not everyone was scraping by then. Some commoners were living pretty well.
Exactly. It just goes to show, even in an ancient civilization like the Maya, there were opportunities, a chance to make a good life for yourself, maybe even leave your mark.
A good reminder that history, it's full of surprises. But speaking of leaving your mark, we've got to talk about Maya art. The Wikipedia article, it mentions these incredible sculptures, murals, and then there are those eccentric flints, right? That's a term you don't hear every day.
Not your average tools, that's for sure.
So we're talking a civilization that clearly appreciated beauty, craftsmanship, even if it wasn't purely practical, right?
Oh, absolutely. But even their art, it wasn't just about aesthetics, about something being nice to look at. It had this deeper purpose. Those intricate carvings on their temples, the elaborate costumes worn by their rulers, those were statements.
Statements of power.
Exactly, reinforcing their authority, linking them to the divine.
Okay, so art is propaganda, but make it beautiful.
You got it. And it wasn't just the big monuments, even those eccentric flints you mentioned, they speak volumes.
Right, those weren't for everyday use, were they? More like art pieces.
Right. Intricately crafted objects taking the form of animals, deities, sometimes these really abstract designs. It's clear they were more about artistry, symbolism than actually, using them for something.
So what were they used in rituals? Status symbols.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Still a bit of a mystery, even to the experts, which frankly just makes them even more fascinating.
A mystery crafted in flint. It's amazing how much skill, creativity went into even these seemingly small things.
It really speaks to a society that valued artistry on multiple levels, not just at the top.
And then there's their writing system, the Maya script. That's got to be one of the most impressive achievements of any civilization, wouldn't you say?
Oh, without a doubt, a testament to their intellectual prowess. It's not just an alphabet, it's this complex system combining phonetic elements like ours, but also using logograms representing whole words or ideas.
It just blows my mind. They were writing on everything. Stone monuments, pottery, even books made from bark paper. Can you imagine the stories those books held?
It's honestly one of history's greatest tragedies, how many of those books were destroyed during the Spanish conquest. Imagine all that knowledge, the history, the mythology, all gone, like burning down a library, but on a massive scale.
A devastating loss,
Yeah.
for sure. But we've got to focus on what we've been able to decipher, right? What do those surviving texts tell us about how the Maya saw the world, their worldview?
They give us this glimpse into a cosmology, a way of understanding the universe that was so sophisticated, so intertwined with their daily lives. The Maya, they didn't see themselves as separate from nature, from the cosmos. They were part of this grand, interconnected web where everything had meaning, had purpose.
And at the center of it all, this whole pantheon of gods, each with their own role to play.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about worship, it was about balance, keeping that cosmic web intact. That was crucial.
Which brings us to, well, it's a topic that often overshadows everything else we think about when it comes to the Maya. Rituals, offerings, and of course, human sacrifice.
It's a difficult subject, no doubt. And I think it's easy for us today to look back and just see the violence, the brutality.
Yeah.
But it's crucial to try and understand it within the context of their worldview, however alien it might seem to us now.
So not just a bloodthirsty ritual then. It had this deeper, almost, dare I say, spiritual meaning to them.
To them, it was about maintaining order, keeping the gods appeased, ensuring that their civilization could continue to thrive. They believed that by offering the most precious thing they had, human life, they were nourishing the gods, sustaining the balance of the universe.
Okay, so a very different understanding of sacrifice than what we have today. But it goes to show how deeply their beliefs influenced their lives,
Yeah.
you'd say, from their art and architecture to their politics, even to how they understood something as fundamental as time.
Absolutely. And it's this intricate tapestry of beliefs, practices, innovations that makes the Maya civilization so endlessly captivating to study. But as we delve deeper into their world, we inevitably bump into that one question that looms over everything.
The big one. What caused their collapse? It's the question, isn't it? In the back of your mind the whole time we've been talking about their worldview, how complex their society was, all these incredible things they achieved, and then, boom, by the 9th century, gone. So what happened?
Yeah, it's the million-dollar question. The one that's haunted scholars for, well, centuries, really. It's like trying to solve a puzzle, but half the pieces are missing, lost to time. We're still putting it together, but there are a few things we can point to.
The Wikipedia article, it mentions things like overpopulation, environmental damage, warfare. Sounds a little too familiar, if you ask me.
Right, and that's what makes the Maya collapse so relevant, even today. It's a reminder that even the most advanced civilizations, they're not immune to the consequences of their own actions.
So overpopulation, let's start there. How does that factor in?
Imagine a society pushing its limits, right? More people means more demand for food, for water, for land. That's a lot of pressure on the environment, especially in a region that was already prone to droughts, to other kinds of environmental ups and downs.
And then that leads us to, well, environmental damage. What were they actually doing?
Archaeologists have found evidence of deforestation, soil erosion, even changes in rainfall patterns, probably made worse by some of their agricultural practices. It's a classic case of like unintended consequences. Their choices, they had a ripple effect impacting generations to come.
Makes you think about the long game, doesn't it?
Right.
Our choices today.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's the constant warfare we talked about earlier. Seems like during the late classic period, things really escalated, probably fueled by, well, competition for resources, a desire to control those valuable trade routes. Who knows? Maybe a bit of everything.
So a perfect storm, basically. Environmental stress, social unrest, conflict. It all just kind of snowballed.
It's a sobering thought, for sure. But here's the thing, and it's an important one. The Maya, they didn't completely disappear.
Right. Just like you were saying earlier, their descendants are still here.
Millions of them. Living, breathing proof that their culture, it didn't just survive, it thrived. They adapted, they migrated, they rebuilt.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it, that kind of resilience.
Yeah. It really makes you question this whole idea of collapse, doesn't it? Maybe it wasn't an ending, but a transformation, a chance to adapt, to reinvent. And honestly, that might be the most important lesson we can take from the Maya. Even when things seem impossible, even in the face of those really tough challenges, we have this incredible capacity to, well, to come back, to rebuild.
And that history, well, it's never really over, is it? It's still with us today in so many ways. This whole deep dive into the Maya world, it's been, well, eye-opening is an understatement.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
We've made connections, busted some myths, and hopefully got people wanting to learn even more. So as we wrap things up here, I want to leave you with this thought. The Maya, they believed in cyclical time, right? Those recurring patterns of creation and destruction. If they could see our world today, what would they think? Would they see echoes of their own past or something totally new? It's something to think about, isn't it? As we navigate our own, well, our own interesting times. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.